Hello, I'm Chris Anthony. Most people call me the Straw Hat Farmer, and I'm with Aquaponics. And today I want to talk to you about growing hydroponic fodder for your livestock. Not to be confused with aquaponics. This has no fish involved. This is a high nutrient grass that grows in strictly pure water. So I want to show you how this system works. It's a cheap, economical way to have winter food for your livestock, but also it's very nutritional, much better than hay and most commercial feeds. Let me show you a little bit about how the system works. You can see we just have a nice thin layer of seed. I do keep a light bulb on this. I keep a 100-watt light bulb. Now this seed here is a day old. You can already see it starting to swell, getting ready to start opening up. We go on over to the next one. The next one here is actually going to show you some sprouted grass, and I can pull that up and just kind of get you a better look at it. It's starting to sprout out, so a couple of days, another day or two. And this one here, you can see down in there, it's already sprouted nicely, starting to get some little green grass. Now here we have some nice pretty grass that will keep maturing over a few more days. Here's some that's a little bit thicker. And as we move on up here, we get into the full growth. This right here is probably going to be harvested in the next day or two. It's not quite 7 days old yet, but it's got a beautiful green color to it. If you take a look, you got to see I've got a little extra seed in this one, where it shouldn't be any seed on the bottom. It didn't all germinate because it was a little bit thick. But that's what your grass should look like. Your nutrients are not only going to come from your grass. Your nutrients are going to come from the root matter that's in the grass. That's where your nutrients are. Now this is a tray that I have left growing just to show you something here, so you can actually see what we're dealing with. If you notice, this one here doesn't have near the dark green color. Well, the reason for that is because we've run out of nutrients here. Grass can only sustain about 7 or 8 days without a boost of nutrients to keep it growing. So if the grass starts to getting much over 10 days, it will actually start losing that bright green color. Now, it doesn't mean that it's not okay to feed it to your livestock. It just means that it's not going to last much longer. And there is your root matter. Look at that. This stuff is really bonded together nicely. Okay, now that our seeds had some time to soak overnight, we've done our process with our preparation from the evening or morning before. Now we'll come in and we'll load this seed. And I'll show you how simple it is. You want to pull your bucket up pretty slow because the water takes a second to drain out. Then basically, you'll just pick your seed up and just spread it out inside your trays. My system just got through running, so I'm running my cycle while I'm loading, which is not the most convenient thing to do because you still have water running, so unless you want to soak your floor, you kind of have to work with the water dripping. You can't set the actual toad out to the floor without getting your floor soaking wet. So in my case, I'll just be working it in here. Now how you want to do this is you actually want to make sure that you just have enough seed to just barely cover the bottom. You'll notice that if you're getting too much seed, you'll be able to see that pretty quickly because you'll have a lot of grass and root matter, but you'll have a lot of leftover seed in the bottom that didn't sprout because it was too thick. So you don't want to have too much seed. Now what I do each day is I pour most of that water into my reservoir, and that'll take up for any evaporation. Okay, this is our reservoir. This is where we put our water, and it is pure water, no nutrients. And inside this reservoir, this is where we have our pump, which is a small pump. And also a little bit of seed will actually sometimes come through a hole and go down to the reservoir. So I keep a pantyhose, or you can get a pump screen to put on it. I just use a pantyhose, they're very cheap, and I wrap the pump. Now, what the pump does is it actually hooks to a timer. Now, I really can't tell you what to set your timer on, whether it's 3 or 5 or 10 minutes every 2 or 3 hours. A lot of that's going to depend on your climate, how the temperature inside of your building is, or inside your unit. And also, it's going to determine of how big a pump you've got, of how much water you're actually moving. I can tell you that what you want to do is you want to get your seed base nice and moist. You want to keep it from drying completely out during the cycle. Now, the actual fodder system reservoir can be a tote about anything you'd like for it to be, but it does need to hold, I'm going to say, somewhere around 10 or 15 gallons for a small fodder system, because you're going to get some evaporation because the grass is actually going to absorb a lot of moisture out of the system. Now, how mine works is it comes through a hole in the front of the reservoir. It works this way through a piece of irrigation pipe. This is the hose that's connected to irrigation pipe. It'll actually follow up the irrigation system. It goes up to the very top of the system. And what we're going to do is I'm going to kind of show you the basic tools of how I installed this as we go along. This is actually called a Mr. Landscape line. It's just a rubber tube that you can actually install right into this plastic line very simply. They actually have a little tool that's made for it. You just punch a hole. Then we have a fitting. Sticks into there, and then that'll go directly into your hole in your landscape tubing. Now the little sprinkler heads, this is from Mr. I'm going to pull one out and let you kind of see it working there. It's actually just called a G sprinkler mister. And I've got 2 that drop into every tote. And I've got a couple of empty totes here so you can see how this works. So the water starts at the very top and drips through into the sprinkler. And it goes downhill. And by the way, this tote has a 1/4 inch of fall to it. Then it's got holes and it drips into this one drips into this one drips into the lower one, and the lower one drips into the gutter. Okay, this is a hefty 34 quart or 32.1 liter tote. Now, the first thing I do is I take the totes, I discard the lids. I drill 3 holes on each side, right inside of this little groove here. That's the lowest point, and that's so the water can drain out. It is small enough that the seed can't fall through. I also have a little piece of shower board trim that has been adjoined with silicone caulk. And this is kind of a guide. You may need this, you may not. And also, here, I use the same piece of shower board trim. It's actually a guide that keeps it positioned correctly for me. So that each time I slide it in, it actually goes right back into place it's supposed to collect the water, so it'll drip into the gutter. Once the water drips into the gutter, it'll actually drain back to the reservoir and start the cycle all over again. The pump will pick up the water, take it back to the top tray, and each tray will drip back and forth until it works its way back to the gutter, and the gutter will feed right back into the reservoir. See this particular row right here? The holes are in the back side. On this side, the holes are in the gutter. On the one above it, the holes are on this side. So that this one drips into this one drips into this one drips to the bottom. So it's actually going back and forth, all the way down. Now my gutter system has got PVC pipe that drains back into the reservoir. I did drill through the side and put an elbow on it, that way my tote can seal up nice with a lid. If you'll notice, the PVC pipe goes through the bottom of the gutter, and I have a bulkhead fitting. Now this vinyl guttering has a lot of lines in the bottom of it, so I find that the bulkhead fitting had a little bit of a trouble sealing down tight on such a rigid material. So what I did was I put a little aquarium silicone around it, and then I slid the bulkhead in, tightened it up, and I've had no problems. Now this is also a vinyl end cap. You can purchase this, it just pops right on, and you have vinyl hangers. Now your gutter is going to need a little bit of fall from the other end back to the reservoir. What we have here is about an inch of fall in a 7 or 8 feet run. Okay, now what we're going to do here is we're going to go prepare tomorrow's grass seed, and we're going to go feed this tote here to our animals. Now I want you to keep something in mind. This tote will not be ready for 7 days. So for every tote here, it takes 7 days. So if you only need 1 tote per day, say you need 10 or 12 pounds of grass per day, then you're only going to need about 7 or 8 totes. If you need 20 or 25 pounds of grass per day, then you're going to need 2 trays, 2 totes every day. So that means you would need a total of 14 totes. And I would always give myself a few extra for colder climate, hotter climate, when it's warming and cooling. So if you needed, say, 20 pounds of grass per day, then you're going to probably want to run about 18 totes. And that is probably going to produce you about 20 to 25 pounds of nice, healthy, nutrient fodder to feed your livestock every day. Okay, so this will hold about 10 or 12 pounds. So this makes it easy to pull out, easy to handle and deal with. We'll go and feed this to some animals, and we'll prepare tomorrow's seed so that we can start the process all over again. Like I say, it takes me about 6 minutes every day to maintain this system when I'm just rushing through it and not doing a video. So let's go feed our animals and prepare some seed for tomorrow. Of course, now all we do now is just throw our fodder right into our hay rack. Our little buffalo, he kind of likes it. It's nice fresh winter grass with a nice root matter on the bottom. You can see the roots and how it's all matted together. That's actually your nutrient content, way more than what the grass itself has. Then I'll go over and feed some to the rabbits and kind of work my way through until everything's nice and fed around here. I don't actually calculate my time of actually feeding my animals as part of the fodder system, just because I've got to feed regardless. If you're curious what that was I just picked up, that's a 20 mil vinyl that keeps them a little warmer. And of course, they're waiting for it. They know exactly what it is. These are California meat rabbits. It's actually warmed up quite nicely, so we'll leave that up today. They love the fodder. Okay, how you want to prepare your bucket for the actual seed prep is going to be, you want to take a bucket and drill a lot of holes in it. Now they need to be pretty small so the seed doesn't wash through them. And the reason for that is, let me fill this up with water and I'm going to show you how it works. Okay, now we've got our water in here. We filled the bucket up to about here. Okay? Now the reason we've got all those holes in the bucket is so when we get ready to get our seed out, it'll actually drain down inside the bucket very quickly and just leave our seed in the bottom of the white bucket. Won't make a mess in our fodder room. Okay, now you'll go to your seed bag. Now there's 2 types of seed that I have tried, and both of them seem to work really well. My preference is a barley. Now I've ran completely out of barley, so what I've got is actually a rye. I had about 25 or 30 pounds of rye left, so I'm going to use that up before I pick up another bag of barley. Make sure you're getting a seed that has not had any kind of pesticides or used on it. Some people have a tendency to throw plugs of rat poison. You don't need to really use a human consumption barley or rye seeds. It can actually be just regular old field grade crop seed. Alright, now what you do is, in my case, I just keep a feed barrel, a trash can. A pretty close amount is actually going to be, it's going to be close to a cup. And then you let this set in there and it'll actually soak down into the water. Some animals are very, very sensitive to mold. And mold can actually kill them pretty quick, and rabbits is one of those animals. Some animals are not sensitive to it at all. Excuse me. Horses are very acceptable to mold, so you don't want to get mold spore in some animals, and a good way to keep that out is put a little bit of course the bleach will actually evaporate out in 24 hours. So I put a couple caps full of or bleach inside of my system. Stir it up good. That'll kill any mold spores that was on the seed from being in storage so long. Well, that's it. Now in the morning, we'll be ready to put this in our fodder system and be able to start the process all over again. This is our process each day. We mix up our seed in our bucket and we feed our animals. Now once a week we have to clean out our reservoir, wipe down our gutter system and things like that. I hope this really helps you feed your livestock, especially in those cool winter months. It's much better than hay or most commercial feeds. Be really careful though, because too much of the hydroponic fodder can actually create some problems for some livestock just from too many nutrients. And I will put a couple graphs at the end that will actually show you about how much hydroponic fodder to feed an animal on weight, and also I want to give you some better drawings and things of how to build your own hydroponic fodder system. So thanks again for joining me. My name is Chris Anthony. Most people call me the Straw Hat Farmer. And check out our website, because I bet you're going to find a lot of other interesting topics about aquaponics and hydroponics and backyard farming. Take care. I hope to see you again soon.